There were so many fireworks at the start of this week's episode of Raw, I actually got worried that I'd fallen into a time machine by accident and not realised and gone back to 1999. Then I realised that can't be true because I'm not in a movie. Also, hello my friends, Simon Miller here, the Progress Proteus champion. Yes, I am going to keep doing this, especially today, because look, I got my stupid warm and fuzzy t-shirt on, which you can buy from Pro Wrestling Tees /Simon Miller, but I'm also a champ in wrestling. There are so many wrestlers watching this right now, and they're mad. It feels wonderful. Also, because I am the champ, I'm now taking control of wrestling. And given that people on the internet keep getting so mad about WWE versus AEW, well, given that we do review multiple shows here on Ups and Downs, I asked you and said, hey, why don't you take all the shows from last week and tell me which one you think is the best? So this is going to be a brand new feature that we shall do every week, and I will give you the power like He-Man. Also, sorry WWE fans, but AEW Dynamite won. Now this was with a whopping 46.8%, although I did put the poll up late, so I do apologise. And I didn't take a picture at the right time, so on the screen is now going to be out of date. But remember, what matters is professional wrestling. Now let's up those downs for Montag Night Raw. This is when we're going to Raw properly, and my gosh, did we go Dr. Robotnik, because we kicked off with chaos. Because I assume we've had to change plans because Rhea Ripley is injured. And all the best to her, I hope she's okay. But Liv Morgan, Dominik Mysterio and his moustache, and Raquel Rodriguez, I now wear sunglasses because I am a heel, came to the ring. Liv just went, right, that's it. My revenge tour is done. Now, I'm not sure Batman ever did that, but look, Ripley is out the way. She did beat Tiffany Stratton, and she is now the Crown Jewel champion. So yeah, makes sense. What else is there left to do? Apart from solve the mystery of your dead parents. Dom then tried to speak, but of course he was booed out of the building. But he is going to become the #1 contender, because he is in that main event. Now I'm going to give you a small spoiler. He does not do this. What a flubbing liar. It then got so weird because Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill interrupted. I know there has been some friction between all of them, but I was just a bit like, don't marry up and merge the titles. Finally, the Women's Tag Team Championships are starting to feel like they mean something, and the best way to stop that is to just throw it in a big pot with everything else. Cargill even challenged Morgan and Raquel to a match. I was like, why? Would you do this? You have nothing to prove. And then Liv was trying to make them hate each other, which I do understand, right? Think of every single tag team that has ever existed in wrestling. Eventually, they all fall out anyway. Anna Pierce walked out, and apparently his neck is fine after suffering an RKO at the weekend, and just went, hey, Liv Morgan, even though Rhea Ripley has gone away, you are still going to have to fight somebody. And right here, right now, we're going to have a women's battle royal, and the winner takes on you. Jade and Bianca are also going to be in that match, and I'm just going to be completely honest with you. Going to get out my honest gun, pew, fire it at the screen. I don't like it. And I know, but it felt very much like, okay, we have to change things up. So once again, I repeat myself, let's just throw everybody in the pot and we will pick someone. This is essentially Geese title shot. Also, no human being is small enough that I'd be able to hold them like this. I'm also worried about the women's tag team titles because, of course, now I presume these two will take on Liv and Raquel. Look, I don't want to go over it again. I've already done it 2 times, but I am going to give it a down. Thankfully, when it came to the Battle Royal, it basically ruled, so that's better. And the main reason for that is Io Sky won. Listen, I tried to get mad about it, but I can't. We also had Isla Dawn, Kaden Carter, Shayna Baszler, Sonya Deville, Katana Chance, Maxine Dupree, Ivy Nile, Zelina Vega, Kairi Sane, Natalia, Alba Fire, Io Sky, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Lyra Valkyria. It was nice to see Lyra. She often vanishes and just goes into the Phantom Zone. Chance also won the silly spot of the evening, because at one point she had definitely been eliminated, but because quite literally her feet didn't hit the floor, this was perfectly fine. Look, I'm not complaining about this. Never stop the dumb rules. They make me happy. Our final 4 was Sky, Lyra, Bianca, and Jade, which was nice because at one point Cargill was looking at Bianca and Belair was looking at her when the other 2 people did take them out. So there's your tease. If somebody did hold a gun to my head, I imagine they will have a match at WrestleMania. The dumb rules then got even better because Cargill and Belair didn't win this thing because Raquel and Liv, who are ringside, just decided, ta-da, we are going to throw you to the floor. So once again, I'm going to put my hands together. Please never stop this. It's just so ridiculous. And why would anybody ever decide to include this? Once again, makes me feel good. I mean, it just begs the question, why doesn't anybody come out here and screw over their past victims when Lara Valkyria and Io Sky decided, why don't we do a German suplex on the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring, and because Valkyria fell on her head, she fell out of the ring, and Io Sky is the #1 contender. Now, I'd also pull a fast one and just give Io the championship, because it would make people go, oh my gosh. And if nothing else, given that Rhea is going to be out for a while, let's find a proper feud for Liv Morgan to sink her teeth into, because I just feel like the championship needs it. But yes, this was good. Up. The New Day were being interviewed after this, and Xavier Woods is all like, listen, we would have won last week if it wasn't for those meddling kids, or Chad Gable. Now, Kofi Kingston remembered this entirely differently. It was like, actually, bro, it was because you chased Rey Mysterio out of the ring, and Woods didn't like that at all. So once again, if you're a New Day fan like me, this is like watching your parents get divorced. Xavier was then all like, well, Kofi, who got pinned in that thing? So I was like, Mum and Dad, would you please stop fighting? And all of a sudden, things did get spooky-wooky, because one of the White Six's videos started to play. As ever, Bo Dallas was talking in riddles and said something like the man walks his dog because the dog is the man. I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm going to teach that in my psychology class, when there was just someone kidnapped to a chair wearing a sheep mask. So bring it down. That is the crime counter. I mean, this is quite literally a crime. Of course, Uncle Howdy then revealed it to be The Miz. So Karrion Kross was half right. The Miz isn't dead, but he has been stolen. Bless Miz as well, because he just threw the Final Testament under the bus instantly. He was like, look, I'm not with them, but I can tell you where they are. And Bo was like, listen, you absolute fool, I don't care about those jabrones, and it's you I wanted to begin with. So the Miz is definitely going to be killed. I think Dallas also said something like, I would crawl on my belly through all the whistles and weeds to get to you. And I was like, okay, that's either really poetic or most definitely a death threat. Dexter Lumis then ran into the screen just to get you go, oh, and be scared and to cut off this video. So once again, this was totally wotally flubbed up. Something bad is going to happen to The Miz. When we come back to the commentators too, Michael Cole was even like, listen, that was nothing to do with the WWE production staff. We don't know how that happened. And he didn't give two hoots that a member of the WWE roster had been kidnapped. So once again, wrestling is a very screwed up place. Still, I really did like this because we have now established that if you do screw over your family, the Wyatts will be there to sort it out. And of course, in reflection of that, you have a family like the New Day who may be about to break up. Also, it was announced, I think on social media at some point, that we are going to have a big old celebration for the New Day because they are about to celebrate 10 years together. And of course, that's going to go bad. Hopefully Big E returns to save the day. So when you do throw all of this into a package, give it a nap. When for some reason we did decide to do the War Raiders versus the New Day, although maybe it was because Xavier Woods did go around to everyone and say, listen, we got screwed and we want to make amends. And did they make amends? No. Eric started this by ruining Kofi Kingston with a knee when Xavier Woods tagged in, but he got murked as well, because you know the deal. These guys are too big, they're too strong, and they're too fond of war, and I suppose too fond of raiding. Eventually Kingston got a lukewarm tag though, and by this point he was cooking, but just as he was about to go for the Trouble in Paradise, Xavier tagged him. This isn't going very well at all. Kofi was totally perplexed as well. He was like, why would you do this to me? This is when the Raiders got him, threw him out of the ring when they hit their finish on Xavier. That's right, they pinned him for the 1, 2, 3. Damn it! So it's really not going well, and I actually think when the Raiders do take on the Judgment Day, Eric and Ivar should become the champions. Because sometimes I forget that Finn Balor, JD McDonagh even have these titles to begin with. Now there's also a video on social media where these two teams did meet. The Viking Raiders, or the War Raiders, shouted at like Finn, oh, the little guy does more than you. I think they were referring to Dominik Mysterio. I was like, wait a minute, Dom is basically a side chick at the moment, whereas Finn Balor is like the pseudo-leader of the Judgment Day. That one didn't make any sense. However, I like this match, and again, give these guys the belts up. This is when we did get it confirmed that in the month leading up to WrestleMania 41, there is going to be a bunch of Raw and SmackDowns in Europe. Now, if you're an old man like me, you remember back in the day when we got stuff like Rebellion and Insurrection, and WWE pretended it was like a pay-per-view, and then you went and it was a glorified house show. So we are living in much better times. Before this as well, we also got to confirm that Goldberg is going to have his retirement match next year in WWE, and you presume the opponent will be Gunther. And if it was up to me, which it's not, I know, big surprise, I would do it on that Raw on the first ever Netflix show and basically turn that whole thing into a pay-per-view. When we got some fallout from Crown Jewel. Finally, Sami Zayn was here though, and he had a terrible weekend, because even though he had tried to help the OG bloodline, well, he totally failed and he didn't. Sami also mentioned how proud he was to be back in Saudi Arabia with his people, when he was like, yeah, I guess we do need to talk about Crown Jewel, and I tried to help Jey Uso, but instead I booted Roman Reigns right in the face. Now clearly Jey Uso and Sami had decided not to have a conversation until this point, because all of a sudden Jey did walk out, and they had this chat in front of our eyes. I was like, guys, you could have done this beforehand. Now, he was totally pleased that Sami Zayn still has his back when he asked the big question. I watched the footage, and did you boot Roman Reigns in the face on purpose? And poor Zayn, the reaction to this was like he'd seen a ghost. Jimmy Uso then walked out because who cares about the brand split, and he too was like, man, I'm so pissed at you, and Roman isn't pissed at you, because we know every time you get involved, you just don't like us, pal, so now we don't like you. And in fact, you know what? We never did. Sami Zayn had come to this meeting with receipts though. He was like, let's go back in the day, Jimmy. You and me were dogs, and also, as soon as it got too hot in the kitchen, what did you do? You booted Roman Reigns in the face, you booted everybody in the face, and you left. And your brother is right here, you cost him a championship. He did. Jim's comeback was just like, man, I don't need to explain myself to you, and we need to stop doing that in wrestling. But Sami was like, listen, you've got it all wrong. I don't hate you, man. And in fact, for a brief second, when we were on the same page, I was having the best time of my life. As ever though, this only lasts for a minute, and when these four are together, it all goes bad. So Sam doesn't want to do this anymore. He is sick and tired of being emotionally manipulated. So while I shall always be for you there, Jey Uso, the rest of you can kiss my ass. I really like this. It's exactly how a normal human would react. And Sami Zayn is basically a great performer. He even dropped the I'm out line, which is of course what the Usos said to Roman Reigns back in the day. When Jey was like, please man, just come to SmackDown. And we can all talk it out. I love it. I love pro wrestling rules. You can't make a phone call or do like a FaceTime with someone. It has to happen on TV. Jimmy then flipped out and was all like, man, he's not family. When Jey went for the big old pop, he said, listen, he may not be blood, man, but he's most definitely family. Fair play to this Saudi Arabia crowd. They went totally nuts for that. They were even chanting Sami Uso, so Jade called him that as well. And I'm sure we will get to SmackDown and somehow we will iron this out. And what's going to happen at Survivor Series? War Games. So this is really well done, and what a lot of people are saying, it's happening too fast, man. The Bloodline story has been going on since 2020, so I'm happy to do a little of this in fast forward. Also, does make me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum up. Jackie Redmond was then interviewing Seth Rollins, who was wearing the daftest costume I've ever seen in my life. It's a bit like Batman had gone to his kid and said, listen, I can't find my suit, you gotta make me another one. Now he really put over Bronson Reed here and talked about the war they were in at Crown Jewel, but it's time to move on, because he's in the #1 contender match later. He then had a very good line, because he was like, man, I gotta take on Sheamus, I gotta take on Damian Priest, and they are some of the best contenders in the world. And then, yeah, there's stupid Dominik Mysterio. Rollins also wants to win back his world championship, which is his focus. And while he looked like an absolute goof, the way he talked here, well, it was a bit more serious, Seth. So maybe that's the direction to head. When Dragon Lee and Chad Gable decided it was time to feed everybody, because they went to the ring and they cooked. Now, they did everything during this match, because at one point, Dragon was even taking Chad's singlet and doing that thing when you pull it and go poof, so it thwacks back. You remember this in school. It's what bullies used to do with rubber bands, and it really hurt. And the bully would be like, well, it can't hurt because it's a rubber band. You were like, yes, it may not hurt physically, but if we're talking about emotions, well, I'm about to cry. Gable then back body dropped Dragon Lee to the floor, which was nuts. So the dragon came back with a stomp when Gable just decided, wait a minute, you are a dragon. I am just going to hurl you across the ring, which is what he did. Then Dragon Lee was German suplexing him, and he was German suplexing Dragon Lee. This was a terrific match, and if you had 12 minutes today, you have to go and watch it. Gable then won that war when he did a German of his own, which sounds terrible out of context, and I didn't mean it that way. When Dragon switched to the Liger Bomb for a 1-2-ooh, so Chad was like, all right, fine, I'm going to DTT you instead. That's not a move. The DDT. But once again, it was just back and forth tennis. And really, we should redo this on pay-per-view and give him like 18 minutes. Gable was going to win as well by putting his feet on the ropes when Zelina Vega was like, no, and she pushed them off. But that's when Ivy Nile got mad, and she went and thumped Vega right in the face. She also tried to choke her, which is perfectly normal behavior, when Rey Mysterio just walked out. I was like, where the hell have you been? And because the referee was dealing with Dragon Lee, and Chad went after Rey, Mysterio booted him right in the face, Lee hit Operation Dragon, and he beat Chad Gable Oodalali. So yes, as always, I think WWE is doing way too many distraction finishes. But when a match is this good, I do not care. They have great chemistry. Let's do a round two. It's most definitely getting it up. When Gunther was here, I mean, this guy. Now, Jackie Redmond didn't care as always, because she was like, oh, hi, big man. Why don't we talk about the fact you lost at the weekend? Ludwig Kaiser was so mad about this. How dare you speak so rudely to my fake dad? Now Gunther told him to shut up because when it comes to Crown Jewel, the better man won. And he put over Cody Rhodes hard. This is why the Ring General is so good, because once again, he treats it like a sport. All of this is sacred, and he accepts it. He also discussed the four-way later, because of course the winner of that will be facing him. And he did the same thing. There's three great competitors, and Dom. Totally love it. Now, the interesting part is that when Gunther talked about Sheamus, he was like, maybe Ludwig Kaiser should have taken that guy out by now. And mostly, both of us need to do better. He was like side-eyeing Kaiser here. So if I was Ludwig, I would ring the cops. I think he's about to be murdered. All that matters, though, is that he is still the world champion. And I love the presentation here, because I am a nerd. I'm just going to repeat myself. It comes down to sports. You can lose. You just need to make sure you have a plan afterwards. This is very good. When it was main event time, my big takeaway is that the entrances lasted forever. But it was Sheamus versus Damian Priest versus Seth Rollins versus Dominik Mysterio. And to start with, everybody was just beating up Dom. That was totally fine because we hate it. Because Priest was laughing so much at this, Rollins ran in and hit the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. But he only got a 1-2 ooh when he followed it up with a dive, which triggered the commercial break. It always does. Of course, too, that is the most powerful force in all of sports entertainment, and it helped the condom, because he was back on top when Sheamus just decided, nah, brah, and he totally wrecked him. And this crowd went nuts for the Irishman. You love to see it. Who deserves it more than Sheamus? Mysterio then decided that he was going to use all of our ringside friends, because he was pushing people off Tina the Turnbuckle, and he was throwing people into Simba the Steel Steps. So he understands, man. You gotta do what you gotta do. Sheamus then returned with all the backbreakers, which would have won when he remembered that he was in a four-way, because Seth Rollins broke it up. Sheamus and Damian Priest were then fighting, which was essentially big men slapping man meat, and Sheamus got the best of that because he hit the white noise, when somehow the condom used that to hit the 619. How the flub did he do that? Now this totally failed because Sheamus just absolutely wrecked him again. Once again, I was going go Sheamus when all of the fallout from Crown Jewel did hit us like a tank, because from nowhere, here was flipping Bronson Reed. Now he had just decided, okay mate, well I lost at Crown Jewel, so why not I just murder the entire main event scene? Because yeah, not only did he take out Seth, he went and wrecked Sheamus and Damian Priest too. That is big, literally. I mean, he just grabbed Rollins at one point and threw him over at the announce table. Dominik Mysterio was just watching all of this because he doesn't want to get involved. But then, yeah, once again, when the Irishman and Damo tried to go, would you calm down? He just ran through them. When he took Seth and he put him on the announce table and he jumped off Barry Barricade and gave him Tsunami. So we know the deal with that move. Seth Rollins, dead. Now, given everything, I was desperate for Dominik Mysterio to win this. I thought that would have been so damn good. Very sadly, we didn't do it. Now, look, he did get the splash of the frogs, but Priest had recovered by that point, and he broke it up at the 1-2 ooh. And even though Dom was able to then hit Priest in the face with the 619, when he went for something else off the top, got caught in midair. Big Showtime, 1-2-3. What the flub was a sugar slam? So listen, I get it, and treating Damian Priest this way totally rules, because he feels like a main eventer, and now he can go back after his world champ. He has had a terrific 2024 as well, so when you sum all that up, well, it does have to get an up. But it really did take the fact that Dominik Mysterio had beaten him recently, just do that old school WWE thing, which is like, well, I beat you, so now you can beat me. We are going to go 50-50. As I've told you 1,000 times, if something rhymes, it has to be true. This is the geek side of me. That part I do have to give a down to. I really do think we should have done Gunther versus Dom. That would have been hilarious. Interestingly too, I don't know when we're going to do this match, because on the internet again, we saw Gunther and Damian Priest having a chat, and Gunther was like, at some point in the future. So we do have Survivor Series and the Saturday Night's Main Event and that Netflix show. Don't forget, the rumor has always been that it could be CM Punk versus Gunther at Survivor Series. So we wait and see. Which brought us to the end of Raw, and yes, this still kind of felt like one of those crown jewels shows, but at least we have set things up for the future. And when we get to SmackDown on Friday, we have to get lots of Bloodline stuff done and figure out how Cody Rhodes is going to calm down Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. Overall, I'm giving it an up. Now, most importantly, my friends, let me know what you thought about Raw last night by dropping a comment below. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And click the video on the screen, which is my ups and downs for Crown Jewel. We can see what we thought of that too. Thank you for joining me as always, though. I do massively appreciate it. And make sure you join me throughout the week, because wrestling never stops, and so do I. Goodbye.